Christopher Nolan, The Odyssey release. Nolan? Girl, shut up. Why am I laughing? Hello everyone, I'm your host Massa, and this is The Corner, where we break down stories A to Z, from those making headlines to entertainment and pop culture to those affecting our everyday lives. If that sounds like something of interest to you, then keep on watching, because boy do I have a tale for you. Okay, and before we get started, I do want to say that this is my first time consuming media related to the Odyssey and Greek mythology, and so I kind of just learned along the way as I was researching this whole thing and writing, and so I will have trouble with the names and pronouncing it. Christopher Nolan, The Odyssey released in theaters on July 17th and has since been the buzz across the internet. The highly anticipated epic has captured audience worldwide, bringing up $264.1 million globally. Nolan's adaptation of Homer's 3,000-year-old poem runs for 2 hours and 52 minutes, and it stars Matt Damon as Odysseus, the king of Ithaca, Anne Hathaway as Queen Penelope, Odysseus' wife, Tom Holland as Telemachus, Odysseus' son, and Zendaya as Athena, with Lupita Nyong'o as Helen of Troy, among others who will later be discussed throughout the commentary. Nolan is known for prioritizing practical effects over CGI. Nolan's adaptation reportedly minimized CGI usage. According to Samantha Moore, who plays Cersei, the transformation of the men to pigs used no CGI and was completely movie magic, though the exact method behind the effects were kept secret. As for the making of Cyclops, Nolan combined practicality with VFX to create a truly realistic version of the one-eyed creature. Furthermore, it's been reported that Nolan's traveled to 6 different countries over the span of 6 months, 91 days, for the film. These countries include Morocco, Greece, Italy, Iceland, Scotland, and the United States. Regarding the camera usage, Nolan claims to have only used a 300-pound, 70mm IMAX camera throughout the duration of the film. IMAX cameras are known for being notoriously loud within the film world, but Nolan tells Rotten Mango interviewer that that was not the case this time. He states to film The Odyssey, IMAX Studios created a very high-tech box that you could put the camera into that makes it silent.
So can you make them quieter? Can you encase them in a blimping system? And they invented this very, very high-tech system, this box that you put the camera into, and it makes the camera effectively silent.
Making The Odyssey the first feature film shot exclusively using only IMAX cameras throughout the entire duration of the film. Oh my god, okay, I feel like we can relax a little bit. It's time for movie commentary. Let's relax. Let's drink some water. I am so nervous. You're not supposed to tell your audience that. I saw the movie at Regal Edward Houston Marquee Theaters. Adult tickets were $30.30, and this was my first time ever seeing a movie in IMAX, and the theater was very huge, and I felt like I was I was very excited. I felt like I was at a VIP watch party, and the seats were stadium style, but they didn't fully recline. The seats don't recline. But I think it's about to start. Oh my god, I'm so excited. Which I didn't realize until 2 hours in the movie, so I was sitting upright like this for about 90% of the time. And additionally, the screen sizes for IMAX are definitely bigger than regular theater screen sizes. Regular theater screen usually measures about 30 to 35 feet tall and 30 to 50 feet wide, while the IMAX stands about 57 feet tall and 75 feet wide. Unfortunately for Houston, we did not have the option to see the film with the 70mm format projection, which projects 12K visuals. Instead, we got the IMAX laser, delivering us 4K visuals and increased IMAX aspect ratios. So that was pretty cool. Moreover, the audio and sound systems were phenomenal, to say the least. Honestly, amazing.
He's scared, Mommy. She's nice.
Regal provides a 12-channel sound system that allows for immersive sound, making the experience even more enjoyable. And I sat in seat J1 all the way in the back, so the visuals were great for me. And I could easily make it to an exit and the restroom without walking in front of people or being stuck in a crowd if there was an emergency. So that, again, elevated my experience.
IMAX, and there's an elevator right there. I mean, for $30, you better hope you get that much.
Because, you know, safety first. That's important to me, obviously. And regarding the ads, I did see some people online, on TikTok specifically, commenting and making videos saying that the IMAX didn't provide ads for IMAX screening, but that is completely false news. Please do not believe that. There were 32 minutes of ads, and so if you're stressing about making it on time to the film like I was, then relax, because there are ads and you're not gonna miss your movie or the beginning portion of the movie. You'll be fine, trust me. And now for another warning, a movie summary and commentary spoilers, and I may not be 100% accurate as it's based on my memories and feelings and retelling and rewriting of what I wrote based on what I saw. So stick around if that sounds like something of interest to you, and if not, if you want to say goodbye here, that's also fine. I'll see y'all in the next one. But for the people who decided to stick around, we have a story to tell, okay?
So the film starts in Ithaca, where we're granted entry to the Great Hall, where all the suitors gather for Queen Penelope's hand in marriage. And this is foreshadowing because we see a bard played by Travis Scott announcing the fall of Troy, which we later end up seeing at the end of the movie. And for me, this scene just felt very warm and intimate, and I couldn't help but like wonder what was going to happen next. Like, I was anticipating what would be to come. And then we're then transported to the beach with Sinon, played by Elliot Page. Sinon is watching the Trojan horse, where he's unaware that Odysseus and a couple of his crewmates were hiding in the horse, and then Sinon sees a group of Trojan. It sounds like I'm saying children, it's Trojan. But Sinon sees a group of Trojan soldiers approaching the horse, and he runs up to it, leading to his demise, death by an arrow to the heart. And prior to the death, he tells the soldiers that the horse was a gift for Athena. And the soldiers take the horse for Troy, leaving Sinon to rot for dead. And the scene felt cold and gloomy and raw. And then we flash back to Odysseus, who I believe is telling the tale. And he's back with his wife Penelope, and they're discussing their wishes and plans for the future. Amidst their conversation, Odysseus explains his plan to leave for war, and Penelope is clearly against it, and she doesn't want him to go, but she ends up complying. And for me, this scene just felt very intimate, and it felt like I was intruding a private conversation. And so I feel like they did a great job conveying that, especially with the atmosphere and the color. Everything was very warm and inviting. But before continuing this summary, I do have some comments that I would love to get off my chest. To start, a lot of the earlier scenes were very fast cuts, which was a bit odd to me, and it took me out of the scene a little bit, to be honest. And I remember Tom Holland saying in a press interview with Fandango that he was a bit confused when Nolan kept cutting. He asked John Bernthal, the guy who was like, "We're lost." He asked that dude who plays Menelaus, the king of Sparta, if it was because he didn't like the takes, but then he later found out that it was because the IMAX cameras only run 3 minutes, and so that may have been why a lot of the earlier scenes were like very fast cut and like intense, even though the atmosphere and the toning and the coloring of everything was very warm and cozy. And I'm not saying that Nolan was the first one to have fast cuts in his films. I'm just saying that it was unexpected for me. Like it was odd because it felt very similar to silent films that I used to watch back in the days. Not back in the days, but silent films that were made back in the days. So like, considering how different the two genres are, you can see how that would be odd to me, if you see what I'm trying to say. And another thing that I was a bit confused about was the American accents. I mean, I don't really know what I was expecting, but I thought Greeks, you know, I mean, it just definitely wasn't that. For instance, when Tom Holland started talking, I know he's British and I know he has great American accent, but the only thing I could think about offhand was Spider-Man. Is that Spider-Man? With great power comes great responsibility. That's the only thing I would think about. And this isn't only exclusive to Tom. I mean, the other actors, everything just sounded very modern instead of like mythic, and that was just like a little bit off-putting to me. But as for the casting, I had no issues with it. I think everyone did a great job, and like, it was an amazing film. But I mean, obviously I have my top 3 or top 4 or 5 actors that I really enjoyed seeing, but I mean, I have no issues with the casting overall, just the accents. But who am I? Anyways, I regress. Let's continue. So we're back in Ithaca with Queen Penelope, a mother and a wife, and she's been left by Odysseus, her husband, for years, 7 years. If I'm not mistaken, I mean, she does emphasize 7 years, so we're gonna say 7 years. I mean, if Queen says 7, we say 7, okay? Anyways, so moving on, her son Telemachus, he goes to her expressing his wishes of becoming king and driving the suitors out of Ithaca and restoring his father's kingdom, but Penelope objects. She fears for her son's life, and she does not believe him strong enough to yet take the throne, and nor does she want to believe that her husband is truly gone. And Telemachus does not understand this. Instead, he kind of lashes out at his mother, and he's accusing her of wanting to remarry and basically scrape the value from his father's kingdom. And I mean, I believe there's a point where Penelope rebuttals, and she's like expressing how she's much more of a better fit to rule the palace than he is. And honestly, I would have to agree with her, because considering she kept the kingdom grounded for 20 years while being unwed and protecting her son's life with all those suitors around, and also like the imbalance in what she knows compared to her son is like astoundingly striking. I mean, so like, it would make more sense if she were to rule, but considering, you know, how openly, heavily sexist they were back then, having a woman rule a kingdom would have been completely blasphemous. So God forbid she ruled the throne that she was already sitting on for 20 years without her husband, you know? Let's go back to the story. I feel like I went on a little rant there. We're now in what I like to call the mid-beginning. So 20 minutes into the film, and the cuts have been slowed down, and it's giving us more breathing room. And we're led by a flock of sheep following Odysseus and his crew to what we came to know as the Cyclops Cave. And let me tell you, I was a little bit taken aback, because I didn't expect for the Cyclops to basically just be a giant human with a deformed face and one eye. I mean, I expected the one eye, but not the giant human. But I mean, it makes the most sense realistically. I was expecting a stylized fantasy version of the Cyclops, because that is what I'm used to seeing in films that I usually watch. But this version, honestly, I was like, you know what, Nolan and crew, y'all did your big one with that. That one, that makes sense. It makes sense. I can't hate it. It makes sense. Continuing on, Polyphemus Polyphemus, am I saying that right? Polyphemus, played by Bill Urban, who I'm going to call Cyclops. He uses the crewmen as snacks, and he's eating them whenever he pleases, and Odysseus is getting tired of seeing his men dying. And so he comes up with a plan to blind the Cyclops, which ends up becoming successful. And afterwards, Odysseus comes up with another plan for them to escape, and they use the sheep as a way to escape because the Cyclops lets his sheep go. And again, they were successful with that plan. But Odysseus, being too prideful, he decides to shoot an arrow in Cyclops' already injured eye, and instead of like just escaping without letting him know, right? And he alerts the one-eyed creature of their escape, basically. And this leads Cyclops to chasing them to the ships and calling onto his father, Poseidon, the god of the sea, the earthquakes, and her horses, to curse them, making their long voyage even worse. Yeah, so thank you so much, Odysseus, for your wonderful, I don't know, like, thank you, okay? Again, we're flashback to the future where Odysseus is trapped on an isolated island with the immortal sea nymph Calypso, played by Charlize Theron, and he's struggling with memory loss due to his consumption of the lotus flower, which we came to find out is helping him ease his PTSD of remembering his voyage, the war, the death of his crew, and the thought of going back home. We're then transported back to Ithaca, where Penelope is still distraught about Odysseus' disappearance, and Telemachus has gone on a quest of discovery to find out more about who his father is. And back on the voyage, Odysseus and his men, they cannot catch a break, all right? They can't catch a break. They encounter the Laestrygonians and in a shifting forest, and they get ambushed basically. And this scene was pretty emotional for me. It was like set out as a montage, and hundreds of men are dying at sea, and the ships are either wrecking or being lost at sea, and Odysseus is heavily blaming himself for everything that's happening. And to be honest, at this point, so was I, maybe the rest of the audience watching with me, because I mean, he could have just left his pride aside and he could have just not shoot an arrow into Cyclops' eye and left, you know, without alerting him, but he didn't. And maybe if he did, their journey would have sailed a whole lot smoother, but it didn't. And that's I mean, it gives me a story to tell. Anyway. Athena, on the other hand, probably would not agree with my opinion, and because she was very fond of Odysseus and she was always by his side, giving him advice, telling him to ease up on himself, and ensuring him it was the gods who willed that his men die. And for this part, like I said, I got really emotional, up to the point where I saw Zendaya. And then I was taken out of the scene, honestly. Like, as soon as I saw, she's like, serving face. And I started, like, historically, I was cackling to myself. I was like, girl, that's Z. That is not Athena, that is Z. Sorry, Zendaya, I'm sorry. I just said Z, I don't know her like that. Forgive me. Then we're taken to Aea, aka Circe's island, and we have a wide view of several different animals, all predatory, from lions to panthers and tigers. We're taken uphill to a home that's isolated, and well, before that, the remaining crewmen had decided that they were no longer willing to follow Odysseus to their death, and rightfully so. And so he goes on asking them, is this a mutiny? And they remain silent, therefore non-verbally vocalizing their response. And now we're back to the home on the hill, right? So the home on the hill with Circe. The men enter, and moments later, so does Circe, who's played by Samantha Morton. I called her Samantha Moore earlier. I'm so sorry, I apologize. Samantha Morton. And she's frightened at first, but then she calms down once Eurylochus, who's played by Himesh Patel, he tells her that they're only there for food and not to harm her, and she ushers them to leave their weapons and their armors out at the back, and before she be able to serve them. And so they comply, which leads them to being turned into pigs, which is what she saw them as. And Odysseus, on the other hand, is out hunting for food, and he gets startled by a crewman that the other guys were missing, and he rushes uphill where he encounters Circe, and she welcomes him and giving him the same instructions that she did his men, and he leaves his stuff out back. And fortunately for him, though, because I'm gonna summarize it here, fortunately for him, the gods were on his side, and so he escaped without being turned into an animal, and instead he's given advice on how to make it back home and telling him how to get to the island of the dead, otherwise known as Hades. And she also alerts him that Zeus wants to, like, only him to make it back home alive, and he's clearly not going to let that happen because of his pride, right? And so he lets her know that his men will be making it back with him, like, and he's very certain of that. Okay, Odysseus. It's time for another commentary time. I've never seen, I think I already said this though, I've never seen a Reddit, so like the Odyssey, but like as I was sitting watching the animals on this farm, I immediately felt ominous vibes. I felt like something was off, like, and so I feel like they did a great job of conveying that, like, ominous, like that there's something going wrong here feeling to the audience, and I really like that. I don't know, like I would have never thought of doing that. I'm not Christopher Nolan, but I mean, so that was like a really good job to me. I liked it. Okay, and another thing I do want to say is that I feel like Eurylochus, he's like, I relate to him on a personal level. Like, dude was always the one asking for food. I mean, I know everyone on ship was hungry, but he was always the one to go up and put his life in danger to say, no, we just want food, we just want food. And I mean, it just made the film a little bit more comical to me, and it gave me relief, and I think that's one of the reasons I really like that character. So yeah, spoilers alert, he was one of my favorite characters. Good job to you. But back to the story. They make it to the land of dead, and they sacrifice some sheep, in turn leading their dead comrades to return to the world of the living. And there Odysseus is warned by Agamemnon, played by Benny Safdie, about the dangers of an unfaithful wife when returning home, and he explains that's how he met his demise. Finally, the blind prophet Tiresias, played by James Remar, gives Odysseus a roadmap of his journey ahead. And guys, I feel like I've already given you most of my commentary, so I'm just gonna cut it short here and like fast pace through the end of the story, all right? So bear with me. All right, so they pass the sirens and one person dies, and they pass Scylla, the six-headed dragon. A couple men die. They make it to the sun god island, where they're told not to eat any of the animals, but unfortunately after some time hunger strikes them, and then they cave in and they eat the animals, and then that's when the storms decide to like kind of smooth out a little bit. And I feel like it was a trick, but they took it at face value, and then they decided to get back on sea. And Poseidon, I feel like, was the one that did that, because he, gotta see whatever, tricked them. And once they do, the waters betray them, and at that point the remaining die, with only Odysseus left as the gods intended to happen. So your bride could not take you so far. All your men die. Anyways, back to the kingdom. Antinous, played by Robert Pattinson. Bro, okay, off topic, but I have grown to love Robert Pattinson throughout my research journey for this film. He's so like relaxed and laid back. Like, I mean, his character I hated, but him, girl, let me tell you, I didn't know he was that funny. He is very funny, and I mean, Pattinson. All right, back on topic. All right, so Antinous, played by Robert Pattinson, and Penelope are having their conversation, and he tells her that he knows that she's been unweaving the shrouds every night due to the backbiting of her unloyal servant, basically, Melanto, played by Mia Goth, and he forces her to make a choice, indicating that she should choose him. And she flirts with him to kind of keep him level-headed, and he takes that at face value, and then she ends up asking him whether her son would be king if they were to get married. And he says yes, but I don't think he was being honest, honestly. I think he was just saying that to like get her to say yes, but then he brings up another thing, saying that only until they had a son, then he wouldn't be king anymore. And then she immediately puts her guards back up, and then she indicates or like kind of vocalizes, but without really vocalizing it, for him to leave, and he does. And back to Odysseus and Calypso, he's finally regaining his memory, and he remembers Penelope, and he is ready to go back home. And she sees that he's ready, and she provides him with guidance, and he makes it back home in disguise, where he meets Eumaeus, who is grieving the loss of his animals and his king, and the unraveling of Zeus's rules. And I think this is the scene that was like another one of the scenes that really stood out to me emotionally, and it was my favorite one, honestly, because it felt so raw. It felt so like real and emotional and heartfelt. And when Eumaeus started crying, I started crying. I feel like the whole theater started crying. We all started crying, and he was just another great actor, and it was just great. So with that said, let's go over my top 3 actors for the Odyssey, and they're not going to be who you expect, obviously. One I'd say is John Leguizamo, Samantha Morton, and Himesh Patel. And if I had to add 2 more, it would be Robert Pattinson and Corey Hawkins, because I hated them very much, meaning they did a great job portraying their characters and their roles. So yeah. Anyways, back to the story. We have Telemachus, who meets his dad, who he doesn't know is his dad at first, but eventually finds out when the encounter with Argos occurs. And basically, they come up with this plan to throw a gathering, and they invite suitors for Penelope's hand in marriage, knowing that they wouldn't say no, because they love to party and they love destroying things and eating and being like pigs. So anyways, so they all come to the party, and that's when things hit the fan. Penelope, she gives them this challenge. She gives her suitors a challenge to string a bow, and it was Odysseus's hunting bow. But all but one fail. And let me tell you, Antinous, he doesn't even try to string the bow. He's so much of a coward that he's like, well, we all know no one's able to do it. He's just cowering around in the corner like the cowardly lion. And so Odysseus is able to string the bow, and Penelope, she's like, that's my husband. She runs up, and then everyone is like, oh, we're gonna die today. We're gonna die. And so they have this big fight. There's some screaming, and there's like death scares of Telemachus, and Odysseus comes out as a winner, and he gets his kingdom back. And then he and his wife, they go on this little voyage that they had planned way before the big voyage of 20 years and her husband being gone. And then Telemachus takes kingdom, he takes the throne, and he is the new king, basically, of Ithaca. And, you know, all is well that ends well, except every 600 men died, 12 ships lost at sea. But, you know, they all lived happily ever after. The end. Anyways, that's the end of the story. And I'm so sorry for going so fast towards the end. I just felt like I was kind of explaining something that's already been explained, and I don't know if that's something that's of interest to y'all. I mean, I took time to research it. I'm a one-woman show. I take time to research, I take time to write, I take time to edit. I do all these things that no one's asking me to do. I'm doing it because I want to do it. And so it was a very fun journey, but I felt like, God, am I just talking a lot? Are they gonna like this? Anyways, I like doing it, so yeah, I enjoyed it. One more thing about Antinous, when he was standing behind cowarding, like, bro, I don't know, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but I'm trying to say, after watching the Odyssey, it made me want to watch the drama. Like, I love Zendaya. I'm sorry, I love Zendaya. She's awesome, and her acting is great. And I've watched her since Shake It Up days, since I was a child, basically. And so she's great, but after seeing Pattinson on screen with the Odyssey, I just had to go and watch it, and it was amazing. I recommend it, and maybe I'll talk about it, maybe I won't. Maybe my next thing won't be about entertainment, maybe it might be true crime. Who knows? Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. I've talked so much today, and I hope I see you guys next Sunday. Bye! Don't forget to comment and subscribe, and